Okay, so as I was saying, clauses get together to form sentences, okay? So some sentences are kind of simple. They have only one clause, okay? One sentence sometimes is also only one clause, okay? So every sentence has at least one clause, but not every clause is a sentence. We have the group of simple clauses, very simple clauses, and we have those complex sentences with two clauses. Sorry, we have simple sentences and complex sentences, okay? The complex ones we call those that have at least two clauses. Clauses on their turn can also be subdivided, and this is the topic for today. Clauses can be somehow awkward, let's put it this way, strange, okay? Uh, like in I sure did it, okay? I sure did it is an exclamation. And because of this, we have an adverb, the adverb sure, inserted before the did, okay? So exclamations are in a typical kind of clause that we call non-canonical, okay? So being canonical means in raw words, in simple words, what does it mean to be a canonical clause? Let's say it's the prototypical clause, okay? What is the prototypical clause? Is that one that has a subject, a core of action, and a kind of complement or object, okay? Do you get this? So that structure that we learn in textbooks, SVC or SVO, okay? Subject, verb, object, subject, verb, complement. If the clause, for a certain reason, for example, it's an interrogative, this order is inverted, it starts with the verb, it's non-canonical. If a clause, for some reason, has more than the elements subject, core of action, and the object or the complement, it's non-canonical. When I say verb here, please understand verb capsule, which is a more complex concept because it's the action or the state of being described by one or more verbs, okay? Depending on if we have or not auxiliaries playing any role in the clause, okay? So we have seen that they are the most economical way to describe what's going on in the clause, to analyze syntactically the elements. And that the idea is that if the clause is too complicated, then we simplify it so that we are able, with this simplification, to determine the role that the words play in that clause and consequently in groups of clauses that build up a sentence. Is this clear for you at the moment? Any questions about this? So if I ask you, why is it important to know what canonical clauses are? What would you answer in a test? Those theoretical questions. Why is it important to know about canonical clauses?
To know how to pass the message more clearly.
That's it. Uh, well, let's take the case of people who have to do with math. Okay, when they have a big equation, so they split that equation in pieces, and they call those pieces x, y, z, beta, gamma, delta, etc. So they calculate x, y, z, beta, gamma, etc. And they put the results together to have the result of the more complex equation. It's a similar approach, okay? It's calling the complicated parts x, turning them simpler, solving them, and putting them back in the equation of grammar, in the equation of syntax, okay? Syntax has a lot to do with math, okay? It's not by chance that in Portuguese they end with the same suffix, mática. What does mática mean? Informática, matemática, gramática. What does mática mean? Telemática. What is the meaning for this root?
The study of the study of
Automática. Automática. Auto means on its own. Mática means the working process, yeah, the system, the machine. Okay, language is a machine. At least that was the way Saussure conceived it. I mean, when I say language here, I'm taking the approach, the dichotomy that considers language as a system, not the individual realization. So we are taking language from the perspective of a machine. Okay, we are doing kind of the studying the if language was a car, we are studying the engine. Okay, so it's just a metaphor for you to understand. So syntax will deal with this thing that where should I put this together? Okay, where should I assemble this piece of language in a more complex uh, element? Okay, like a car. So where should I put this? I don't know. Where should I put this kind of engine? I mean, engrenagem. Okay. So language has these engines that work together, and if one fails, the whole system fails. At least in this structural perspective. Okay. So we have seen some differences between canonical and non-canonical clauses. I have shown you this board here. So we learned the differences. The first one is that a canonical clause is always positive, which excludes interrogatives and negatives. And when I say negatives here, I mean the real negatives, those that have a not beside the verb, okay? Uh, because sentences that have a semantic negative value, like I have no time. In fact, it's a positive sentence because no is not, as you already know. Okay. Although semantically they give you information about something I don't have time, the structure is positive. I have no time. It's a declaration. It's a declarative sentence. So canonical clauses are always declarative. Okay. They do not have a not. So they do not have a not is a non-canonical clause, and they are never questions. Okay, so with this I cover item 1 and 2 in this table. They are also always direct speech. Okay, they are never reported speech. So we never have a that, like he said that, she said that, I was informed that. Okay, there is no there is neither coordination nor subordination in canonical clauses. Okay, and with this I cover item 3 and 4 in this table. Okay, in the first one I have uh, I have a subordinated sentence, a subordinated clause, okay, that they knew the victim, okay. So she said what? It's not meaningful. I need something else. She said this. She said that they knew the victim. But the problem here is that this is uh, there is a conjunction inside it that makes me wonder, makes me consider this as a subordinate clause. Okay, in canonical clauses, uh, because they are clauses, they can never be subordinated, neither subordinated nor coordinated, because when I use the concept of subordination or coordination, I imply that there are at least two clauses. Okay, this is just a review, and I'm presupposing that you have already looked at these elements in the previous class. Okay. Any questions about this?
No.
Okay. And finally, number 5, okay, uh, like the case of the secretary took the key versus the key was taken by the secretary. What's the difference here? The information packaged is the same, isn't it? Just a moment, I forgot to put it mute. Sorry about that. Okay, so information packaged here is the same. Okay, there was a key and a secretary took it. Okay, but what's the structural difference between 5A and 5B?
The change of the subject and the past tense.
Yes,
5B is passive voice.
yes, it's similar to past tense, but in fact, it's the participle, isn't it? Taken, take, took, taken. Okay, so the key was taken. I
Uh,
changed the let's put it in a metaphorical language, the doer, the performer of the action. Okay, well, in the first case, the secretary took the key. Now, can secretaries do things? Sure, they're humans. They have a will. They can take a key, but keys can't do anything except being taken. Okay, they are passive because keys don't do anything. Okay, so this second, this sentence B, 5B, is passive voice. So another lesson that we learn from this is that canonical clauses are always active. Okay, they are never passive. So here is a summary of everything we have been discussing in the previous slide. So canonical clauses are declarative. Okay. Uh, And please, imperatives are not declaratives, okay? Don't make confusion. They have a positive structure, um, but they are not considered canonical clauses because they do not have a subject, a clear subject, okay? In some cases. And exclamatives are an exception too, because sometimes exclamatives are just one word, and sometimes even an onomatopoeia will do as an exclamative, like ouch. Okay, so we don't put them in the category of canonical clauses. Canonical clauses are always positive. Okay, so negatives are non-canonical. They are always the main clause. Okay, there may be coordination or subordination in the sentence, but that clause that I call canonical should be the main clause of that sentence, not a subordinate or a coordinate one. Okay, so with this I cover both here. They are main main clauses and non-coordinate. Okay, and canonical clauses are always active. So passive clauses like the article was written should be turned into a canonical clause. How would you turn the article was written into a canonical clause? Let me get a pen here, just a moment. How would you turn the article was written? I need a canonical clause for this. Articles cannot be the subject of a sentence because they are inanimated. So how can I deal with this? What kind of manipulation would you do to
He
yes,
he read the article.
he wrote the article. He or she wrote the article. It's a good idea. You could use an indefinite pronoun as well, like someone wrote the article. Yeah, he or she, someone, and then someone starts being the subject of the sentence. Wrote is the core of action that we can call verb capsule, and the article is the object, what was written. So he wrote the article, she wrote the article, or someone wrote the article. In these three cases, we have a canonical clause with a performer of the action. This is a problematic concept. I'll talk about it in no time, this concept of performer. But we have, just to understand at this moment, we have a performer of the action, we have the action, and we have the sufferer of the action, which in the case of the passive, the sufferer of the action, the element that suffers the action, that receives the action, is syntactically positioned as if it were the subject. Okay, this is a problem with non-canonical clauses. They are deceiving. Okay, they they may lead you to misinterpretations, and that's why we always need to deal with canonical structures. Okay, so they always have this structure, either subject, auxiliary adverb, verb plus the object. uh okay, and here this thing here, let me see if I can. This have now read is what I call verb capsule. Okay, have now read, because I have three verbs. Okay, have as an auxiliary. Now, no, I do not have three verbs. I have two verbs and an adverb. Okay, have, now is an adverb, and read, which is the main verb. Okay, getting together, operating together to give me the notion of what's going on. Okay, so I call this the verb capsule, the core of the action. Okay, sometimes it's also called a verb phrase. Okay, and structures like most of them I have read now. I have now read. Could be like this. Have you read the texts? Oh, teacher, most of them I have now read. Okay, it can be said like this in this indirect order, but it's difficult to analyze syntactical functions this way. So I kind of work on them and put them in a more direct order so that I can analyze the function of each word in the clause. Okay? Oops. So canonical clauses always have this structure, SVO, and O is object. I'm sorry about this cat here. Do you hear the cat? A gata enche o saco, gente. Espera só um pouquinho.
No.
Ah, no, if you don't hear, no problem. I can ignore her because she's kind of looking for me. Tá carente.
Okay.
Tá carente. Tá... Eu ainda não botei a comida. Ela não é interesse em mim, não. É interesse na comida. Okay, so this is just repetition, okay? So I'll jump. I think we had everything we had to know about canonical clauses. Well, let's go to this. I said that in all the examples, the non-canonical clauses differ in their structure from canonical clauses. But this is not always so. This is important because in some structures which are non-canonical, there are omissions. And I talked to you about omissions by the end of last class. This is the point where we left. So when I say, for example, Safira told me she finished the exercise list. Safira told me she finished the exercise list. Well, this is grammatically perfect, acceptable. But is there something hidden in this? Safira told me she finished her exercise list. There is a that we're learning, I think, in basic, I think in your second or third semester of English studies. There is a that in the reported speech that you can omit, isn't there? I can say it both ways. I can say he told me that he was tired, or he told me he was tired. And we have a third option. He told me, quotations, I am tired. Okay. So we have these three options, but considering the one of the that, which is interesting for us at this moment, there is a that I can omit. Now, the fact that I omit something, let's use logics. The fact that I omit $1,000 under my bed, does it mean that I do not have $1,000? Can I hide something that I do not have? Logics. Can you
No, you
hide?
can't.
You can't hide something if you don't have it to hide. Okay. So the fact that the that is not pronounced does not mean it's not there in grammar. Okay. It can be, as we say in grammar, in syntax, it can be elliptical. Okay. You can produce this ellipsis of the that, this omission, but it's there. To grammar, it's still there. So that, in this case, is a conjunction that indicates subordination. So subordination is still present, even when I omit that, okay? So this other example here, sorry about the diagramming of the slides, it's not perfect. The secretary took the key versus the key was taken by the secretary, okay? In the case of B, a clause is non-canonical if it lacks at least one of the mentioned properties, okay? So remember, the clause can be positive, declarative, main clause, everything, but if it's not active, it's non-canonical. The clause may be active, positive, main clause, but it's coordinate. It's non-canonical, okay? So I should have all these features in combination, okay? If only one of these elements is missing, what I have is a non-canonical clause. Any questions about this? So, of course, canonical clauses may lack more than one of these elements, okay? But lacking at least one means it's non-canonical, okay? For example, wasn't the key taken by the secretary? There are many problematic points here. First of all, it's a question. So it's non-canonical because canonical clauses should be declarative. Second, there is a not. There is a not in wasn't. Third, what's the other problem?
It's passive.
It's
It's not the
passive.
key that's doing anything.
Yes, that's it. Okay. Somebody wrote something in the chat. Let me see. Okay, Quarenstein, no problem. No problem. Okay, just watch the video later. Okay, so let's do something that you really love to do. Exercise, okay? I'll give you some sentences and I'll give you some time to reflect about them, okay? You can even work in pairs if you would like to in a separate room. You can open your own Google Meet in parallel with this one. Just mute this room, stay here, mute it, and go to your second room if you would like to work in pairs. And I want you to tell me whether some clauses I'm going to show here are canonical or non-canonical. Like this one, my family came for Christmas. This house is the house that I bought this is the house that I bought. Emma plays the piano very well. Jesus, how brilliant she is. She is not happy with her performance. What a shame you couldn't do it. Mike, do it as soon as possible. And there's no money in my wallet. So let's get to work. Uh, work on these clauses for, let me see, 10 minutes. Do whatever is possible in 10 minutes, okay? If you can do everything, it means you are mastering the art of canonical clauses. If you can do at least half, I would be happy with your performance. Please do in 10 minutes and then we are going to correct them. Okay? Can I count on you?
Yes.
Okay. So it's time for another coffee because the teacher is almost fainting because of lack of caffeine. But I'll be back in no time. And if you have any problem, just scream, teacher, I come back. Okay?
All right.
Ah, it's not a matter only of saying that it's canonical or non-canonical, but please, why? Okay? Why is it non-canonical? If it's canonical, we know why. It's because it fulfills the requisites. But if it's non-canonical, why is it? Where is the problem? Has any of you finished?
I have.
Great, great. Let's wait 2 minutes more. Anybody else?
I did it too.
Good, very good. It's very important that these exercises are significant for you, okay? Why am I doing this? Okay. You are not doing this just to perform well in morphosyntax and get a grade. You are doing this to know how to recognize canonical clauses and consequently non-canonical ones. As a consequence, you will be able to do the second step, which is turning non-canonical clauses into canonical. Okay, so that you can analyze easier with less ambiguity. Okay, this is the purpose. So let's start with the corrections. My family came for Christmas. What do you think about this clause, which is also a sentence? How do I know it's a sentence? How do I know it's a clausal sentence? A sentence should be meaningful. Now, my family came for Christmas. Is it meaningful?
It
Completely
is.
meaningful? It is,
Yeah, I think
okay?
it
It
is.
packages a set of information, okay, that is self-sufficient, okay? They are self-contained. Okay, so my family came for Christmas. It's a sentence and it's a clause. Now I'd like to know if it's canonical. Is it? What do you
It
think?
is.
It is.
Yes.
Okay. Very well. If it is, we do not have to say anything. It's positive, it's declarative, it's non-coordinate, non-subordinate, and so on. All the features that you have learned. Now in B, this is the house that I bought. Canonical or non-canonical?
Non-canonical.
How many clauses are there? Is there only one clause in the sentence or more than one?
There's more than one.
And how do you know that, Mateus?
Because there, because of the that, and also because there are two. I can't say objects, but yeah, the subject. No. Wait. How can Yeah,
You are right when you say there are two clauses.
yeah.
The first one is, this is the
This is
house.
the house.
Let me ask you, this is the house. Does it package a whole set of information? This is the house.
Yes. Yeah. We
Yes.
could make it a sentence.
Yeah. Okay. Of course, you need the context, the visual context. Okay. But imagine somebody has just bought a house and took you there and shows you the house. This is the house. It's complete. Okay. Now that I bought, does it package full information? The first question you have is, what did you buy? Yeah. So that I bought refers back, this that refers back to house. But we do not have the context of the previous clause, we'll never know. Okay. So you are right when you point that as the problematic element in this clause. Okay. What do we call that? Grammatically speaking?
Conjunction.
Passive voice. Oh yeah. Conjunction.
A conjunction. In this case, is it a coordinator or a subordinator?
Subordinated.
Yeah, because the second clause is subordinate. Teacher, what does it mean being subordinate? Well, being subordinate means it only makes sense if I have the previous clause to contextualize. Okay, so that is a kind of problem for me here. Okay, so this is non-canonical. Sorry, because of coordination. Oh yes, coordination, because I bought I wouldn't say this is coordination. I bought the house. Oh yes, because of the previous element. I bought what? The house. Okay. This is the house that I bought. I bought, it's like I play. Okay. Grammatically, it is okay because I have a subject and a verb. But the object is presupposed. That's why it's coordination. Attention. The object is presupposed from the previous clause. I bought what? House. Okay. That's why it's coordination. Okay. But anyway, being coordinate or subordinate is the same for me in this case because both coordinate and subordinate clauses are non-canonical. Okay. But I'm trying to explain to you why it's coordination and not subordination in this case. So that is a coordinator. I'm abbreviating it grossly. I'm sorry. Coordinator. Okay. Now, in the next, do you understand why it's coordination and not subordination?
Yes.
Yes.
Did you buy the
Sorry, what
house?
was the reason? Oh,
Did you buy
why
the
is
house?
it?
Mm.
Yes.
So you have the question. Did you buy the house? Yes, I bought. The grammatical would be I bought it. Okay. But I bought can be sometimes admitted. Like I bought, I don't know, another transitive verb. Or intransitive verbs, for example. Some verb that does not need a complement. Let me get from a list here because I can't recall by memory, by heart. Intransitive verbs. Examples. The case of I listen. Okay, listen is can be sometimes intransitive, or I exist, which is better. I think, therefore I am. This I am is this therefore I am is a coordinated clause. Therefore is a conjunction. Okay, I am packages whole information. Okay, I exist. Okay, I do not have to say anything else because I is both the subject and the object of this clause. Okay, this is the principle of coordination. Okay, I bought from the context of this sentence, as the house is part of the sentence, bought is referring back to house. That's why it's coordination and not subordination. Do you understand it better now?
Yes.
Okay. Next one. Emma plays the piano very well. Do we have any kind of grammatical problem here? How many clauses do we have in this sentence? Is it a complex or a clausal sentence?
Hey, my father just interrupted me. What was the question?
Okay. Letter C. I'm asking you if it's a complex or a clausal sentence. What do you think?
I think it's a clausal sentence. And it's
Clausal. It
not
has only
complicated.
one clause.
Yes, it's not
Sorry?
complicated. I don't think it's
No, it's
complicated.
not. It's not. The only thing here would be the positioning of the adverb. Very well. The intensifier very and well. Sorry about this. Very and well are positioned somehow. We are used to position adverbs beside verbs, not beside objects. But in this case, this is the way that grammar requires it to be. Emma plays the piano very well. Well, I could say Emma plays very well the piano, but it would be strange, isn't it? Okay, some other adverbs would go beside the verb. Well goes after it, after the object. I'm sorry. But anyway, okay, we have but only one subject. How many verbs do we have?
Just one.
One.
Just one. That's why it's a clausal sentence. And we have one object. Okay, we have somebody doing something to something. Sorry, this is a string. We have somebody performing some action towards something. Okay, in this case, Emma is performing the action of playing towards the piano. Okay, so nothing to discuss here. It's canonical. Okay. Now, how about my other students? Won't you participate? Ana, Josileude, Safira, Luiz. Luiz was participating. You are so quiet. I'm worried about you. Let's see if you
Yeah,
can.
I said the second one.
Yeah, Luis said. I'm sorry, Luis. Let's engage, okay, in this one. D. Jesus, how brilliant she is. Is this canonical?
It's non-canonical
Why, Anna?
because is exclamation.
Yeah, we have the interjection.
Não, eu não consigo explicar em inglês, desculpa. No
Okay.
caso, eu tô usando primeiro um vocativo ali no começo, né? Eu tô.
Olha que bonito que ela fala, né? Vocativo. Muito bom. Vamos lá.
E eu tô, como eu disse, exclamando, mas seria uma fala, né? Diferente da. E também tá na ordem inversa, né? She is brilliant. Meu Deus.
Brilliant.
She is
Very good.
isso, brilliant. Very brilliant. Mas aqui a ordem tá inversa da frase. E
Yes,
é
that's
isso.
it.
Um dia eu vou
That's
conseguir
it.
falar inglês, vai dar certo.
Não, tá tudo bem. Tá tudo bem. Você tem que acertar a morfossintaxe aqui, ok? Sua pronúncia, a sua fala em inglês vai vir ao longo da sua graduação, com certeza, tá? Okay, so we have Jesus, which is not the real Jesus, of course. It's just an interjection, okay? So we have the interjection and the exclamation mark, which is an indication of non-canonicity, okay? And how brilliant she is. As she said, there is this inversion. The correct would be, she is brilliant. Okay, canonical. She is brilliant. She, subject, is. Verb capsule. Brilliant. In this case, it's not the object, okay? It's the predicative complement. I'll talk about predicative complements in no time, okay? Predicative complements basically qualify, that's why they are predicatives. They qualify something else in the sentence. They refer back to it to qualify it. Like, I am a teacher. I equals a teacher. A teacher is what I am. I equals teacher. So in this case, teacher is not my object. Teacher, it's myself. So there is an equality relationship, okay? And that's why I call it predicative complement, because it's the quality of being a teacher that I have, okay? So non-canonical because basically, among other reasons, because it's exclamative, okay? Now, E, Sue is not happy with her performance. What do you think, girls? Safira, Josileude, Liana. What do you think?
Canonical.
Canonical. Do I have somebody here to disagree?
I don't think
Yeah.
it is canonical because it's negative.
Canonical.
It's negative. Do you still think it's canonical? I think it was Safira that said that. Was it Safira? I don't remember who said it's canonical.
Me, Ana Luisa. I
Anna.
agree
Okay, I
with
want the
Matheus.
debate. I want the debate. Do you agree with Mateus or do you want to
Yes,
support?
yes.
Yes,
I
it's
understand
negative.
now.
Okay. What would be the canonical version for this then?
Sue is unhappy with her performance.
Brilliant. Brilliant. You preserve meaning. Okay, you preserve meaning and you get rid of this not here, which is the problem for us. So Sue is unhappy with her performance would be the perfect canonical version of E. Sometimes it's not possible to have the opposite adjective or the opposite adjective in this case. Sometimes it's impossible to have it. So in these cases, you just drop the not, analyze the positive sentence, and then place the not back as a negative particle. Okay. But in this case, we have this brilliant solution of changing is not happy for is unhappy. Okay,
Or for sad, right? Sue is
sad.
sadder.
Yeah, Sue is sad about. Then you would have to change the preposition, yeah, about her performance. Or Sue is disappointed with her performance. Many other adjectives would do here. Okay, but very well. You have found a good way out for this. So it's non-canonical because it's negative. Very good. Now, how about F? What a shame you couldn't do it. What do you think?
Non-canonical.
Why?
Because it's exclamative.
It's an exclamative. It's the first reason. Is there any other reason? If you let's imagine you were with a lack of attention and you didn't see that exclamation mark. Instead of that, there is a period. Is it still non-canonical?
That's because it's negative. Couldn't.
Couldn't. We have the negative element. But is there any other reason? The W8. W8 are interrogative pronouns when they start a sentence, aren't they? What did you do? When did you go? Why did you say that? Okay, so W8 questions. You learned about this probably somehow in your studies of English, okay? So we have a structure that although ends up in an exclamation mark, the structure is similar to that of an interrogative question that starts with what, when, why, how, which is not W8, but it's treated as a W8 question, okay? Now, the next one, G, Mike, do it as soon as possible. How would you consider this one? Canonical or non?
Non-canonical.
Why?
Because it's imperative.
Imperative. Imperatives. We make confusion sometimes with imperatives because we have associated imperatives with, how can I say, forgetting to use please, but it's not that. Even if I use please, it's an imperative. Mike, please do it as soon as possible. It's still imperative. One of the characteristics of imperatives is the presence of verbs in the subjunctive. Wow, teacher, what is it? What is the subjunctive? It's like do, write, say, buy. Publicity language, publicitarian language, they use lots of imperatives, okay? Even if they say please, okay? Even if I place the please there, I still have an imperative. It's like a command when I have a command, okay? And then I use the subjunctives of the verb. We'll be talking about subjunctive and how to use it by the end of the module of syntax, okay? Don't worry about it right now, but you should know that there is the verb in the subjunctive here. So since it's an imperative, it's non-canonical. Very good. And finally, the last one, there's no money in my wallet. What do you think?
Canonical.
But it's saying there's not something in my wallet. How do you explain? Because canonical clauses should be declarative and positive. Is it the case? Is it positive? Just testing if you were sure of what you were saying. Okay.
It's because it's like there's no. It's not there isn't money in my
Yes.
wallet. It's there
Yes.
is no money.
Very good. No is not. Okay. I have no activity for today after class. It's different from I do not have any activity for today after class. It's completely different. Okay. No is not. So it's canonical. Okay. Because I have the subject, the verb capsule, and the object. In this case here, there's no money in my wallet. Where is the subject? Would you risk where the subject is? The subject is placed beside the verb. There is. There here, which is a pronoun, a demonstrative pronoun, is playing the role of the noun. Now, what's the role of a noun in a sentence? Nouns are either the subject or the object. There is there plus to be. There's. What? No money. No money is a compound, is a noun phrase, okay, that plays the role of a noun. A noun phrase is a group of nouns or a group of words around which the other words are orbit around the noun. So no money is the object. Subject, verb, object. And how about in my wallet? What's the function of in my wallet? In my wallet is what I call a prepositional phrase. It starts with the preposition in just to situate the listener or the reader where the subject where the object is, okay? But don't worry about this synthetical analysis for now. That's just this, okay? So, oh gosh. Right. Let's go to the next topic. Let me just open it here. What was it? 7. I'll give you a brief introduction on the next topic. So, our next topic will be on parts of speech. Okay. Now, parts of speech, they have different ways to name them. Okay. Parts of speech. Well, speech is language. Now, what are the parts of language? When I talk about parts of speech, some people would prefer to say grammatical class. Others would say word class. So what are the parts of speech? When I say, for example, this class is over. This is what? What's the grammatical function of this in this class? This class is the subject, but being subject is not considered part of speech. It's a syntactic function. Subject is a syntactic function. I'm talking about parts of speech. Parts of speech are deeply related to word functions. So what is the function of this?
To specify the class.
Yeah, if I say this tablet is different from that guitar, okay? So this is a demonstrative what?
Demonstrative pronoun.
Pronoun. And as you already know, pronouns have the function of replacing nouns, okay? So when I talk about parts of speech, I'm talking about pronouns, nouns. This class is over. What is the function of is? It is the verb, okay? I'm talking about these entities, okay? And we have 9 of these parts of speech. Let me just erase this line here. So I have 9 parts of speech, or if you prefer, 9 word classes, okay? Can you recall them by heart? What are the parts of speech that you are kind of familiar with when you are studying or teaching English?
Noun,
Noun, pronoun,
verb,
verb, what else?
Adjective,
Adjective, very good.
adverb,
Adverb.
preposition,
Mm-hmm.
conjunction.
Conjunctions, very good.
Ooh.
So you are familiar with them. As
Yeah.
you can see, the naming word class or part of speech may be the way to classify is new, but it's something that you are used to because you use it in everyday language, either to teach or to study. Okay, so we have now some different and technical namings for these parts of speech, and I have to warn you that it depends on the approach, okay? The approach I'm using here is the approach of Michael Swan, practical English usage, okay? So he does this kind of classification, but there is not a full agreement, okay? For example, I'll be specifying when we come to it, but for example, some semanticists treat nouns and pronouns as only one part of speech. Some others would split it into one and another category. There is an argument that these people that treat nouns and pronouns as just nouns use that positioning is the same, function is the same, okay? So we would treat pronouns and nouns just the same way and group them into the same category, okay? Do you understand why? So some would say there's nothing called noun and pronoun. Everything is just noun, okay? Pronouns are a subgroup of nouns. Others would treat it differently. The same for coordinator and subordinator. Some semanticists will group these two into a bigger category called conjunctions. As you mentioned here, you mentioned the conjunctions. In Michael Swan's approach, he decided to split coordinators and subordinators, okay? But anyway, we have 9 primary parts of speech, and they are the determinative or determiners, okay? Why? Because they help us determine what we are talking about, okay? Like the dog barked is different from a dog barked. So the is a determinative. A is also a determinative, okay? The difference is the degree of specificity, okay? So the, as you already know, is a definite article. So determiners is the technical and beautiful name for articles and quantifiers. Some grammars will approach some and any as quantifiers, but in our approach here it is a determinative, so it goes together with articles. Questions about determinatives? Any questions?
No.
Oh,
Okay. So we
No.
have adjectives, okay, which is familiar for you. They're kind of a quality of something, kind of, it's a way to specify as well. Okay, very young. I got a sore knee, or it looks easy. These three words underlined there, they are adjectives. We have the nouns. Nouns can be either concrete or abstract. Okay, and as you can see in our approach, in I love you, I'm treating both I, you as a noun, because I love you is the same as saying Ushoa loves the students. I love the students. Ushoa is a name, is a proper name. I is the pronoun that goes instead of Ushoa. You goes instead of students. So in this approach, we are considering nouns as we are considering pronouns as a subgroup of the bigger group, nouns. Okay. We also have coordinator, okay, like and, or, and but, okay. In we saw Kim and Pat. So we have two ideas. We saw Kim plus we saw Pat. We saw Kim and Pat. This is coordination, okay, because we saw works for both, for Kim and for Pat. Hurry up or we'll be late, okay? So or is also a coordinator because it joins two independent ideas. Hurry up is completely understandable as an imperative. Sorry, hurry. Here it's not hurry up. Hurry, it's okay. Yeah, you do not have a complement. It's an imperative. And will be late is also understandable. But when I join or here, I have coordination. Okay. Or another case, it's cheap but good. So it's work for both. It's cheap, it's good. It's cheap but good. So the adversative here, the coordinator, implies that the subject and the verb are the same. It's cheap, period. It's good, period. It's cheap but good. Could be it's cheap and good. Okay, would also work. So we have the category of coordinators. Adverbs that, as the naming says, goes. What does ad mean? Adjunct. Adjunct means on someone's side. Yeah. Adverb goes beside what? At least normally. Adverbs are positioned beside. She spoke clearly. Clearly is the adverb. Now, what is clearly beside? It's beside the verb. Yeah, that's why it's called adverb. So, in this case, adverbs are positioned beside verbs usually. We remember there are some exceptions. Or in you're extremely fit, as extremely goes beside are. Or he works very hard, where very goes beside work. Okay, adverbs modify verbs, and that's why they go beside them. Okay, prepositions. Now, prepositions in English, pre means, the prefix pre means, or pre means prefix.
Before.
Before what? Preposition. Before. Exactly this, before the position. He is in the garden. The garden is the GPS coordinate. In comes before the garden. In comes before the position. Okay. Or in this case, in the second case, it's from your uncle. Your uncle is also a kind of position because it's the origin. Yeah. I'm from Ceará. Ceará is my origin, it's a geographical position, okay? But position here is not only geographical, it's the origin of something or the destination of something. Give it to her. Her is the destination of the giving. So to is a preposition, okay, because it comes before the destination of the giving act, okay? Or we went to Paris. Paris is the destination of the flight, and to anticipates, prepares this destination. So to is a preposition. So whenever you think of a preposition, you are indicating either the position or the direction of some action. Okay? Finally, verbs that we classically learn as what? What is a verb? If somebody asked you, what is a verb? What's the most basic definition of a verb?
Most basic is an action.
Supposedly it's an action. Now, there is a problem with this because when I say...
Can be state of being too.
Yes, because when I say I am sick, well, being sick is not really an action. It's a state of being. So a verb describes either an action or a state of being. Very good. So we have the example with to be, he is ill, or she left early, or we want to help, okay? And the subordinators, in this case, that and whether. It's not clear that whether is underlined, but it's whether, okay? That's underlined there. Ask whether it's true, okay? So these are the subordinators, okay? So why is it subordinated? Because when I say it's true, the immediate question we have is what is true? Okay, what are you talking about? So if it's in the sentence, if it's clear in the sentence, okay, but it's not clear here, so it's subordinated, okay? Now, we have to know these 9 parts of speech, and also there is an approach here about interjections. In our approach, interjections are also considered a word class, okay, or a part of speech, but they are quite simple and will not explore them in this course, like ouch or gosh, okay? They're just, let's just consider them interjections, okay? They are exclamations sometimes, most of the times, but there's nothing to deal with them about, okay? We'll not explore them into details. So we have this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. With interjections, we have 9 parts of speech, but we are going to deal with these 8 ones, okay? Now, how can you memorize all these guys, okay? So explanations here that we take pronouns just as nouns, okay? And that some traditional grammars would consider, instead of coordinators and subordinators, they would package everything together as conjunctions, okay? But I'll go back to this next class. For now, just a hint for you to memorize these 8 parts of speech. I have created this kind of sentence, which is an acronym, okay? But you can create another if you have a more creative sentence, just to memorize the 8 parts of speech. So I myself created this one. NASA discovered a very cold planet. You could create anything else that starts with NASAD, not in this order, of course, not in the same order. It's just a technique to memorize. If you don't feel the need for that, that's okay. Yeah. So what does this big sentence stand for? It helps me memorize that when I talk about parts of speech, I'm talking about nouns, adjectives, subordinators, adverbs, determiners, verb, coordinators, and prepositions. Okay. Now, for the next classes, we are going to explore these 9 parts of speech. Why? Because we should know grammatical categories on their own? No, because these 8 parts of speech, 6 of them will derive into different types of phrases, except for coordinators and subordinators, which start clauses or link. They do not start, they link clauses. Except for coordinators and subordinators, all the other parts of speech can derive into phrases, which means a noun can be the core of a noun phrase, or a verb can be the core of a verb phrase, and this verb phrase plays a role in the sentence. Or a preposition, as you saw in the previous exercise, is the central point of a prepositional phrase, a phrase that will indicate some kind of positioning. Okay, so each of these parts of speech, except coordinators and subordinators, so we have 6 different types of phrases derived of nouns, adjectives, adverbs, determiners, verbs, and prepositions. Okay, so we have the prepositional phrase, the verb phrase, the adverbial phrase, the adjective phrase, and the noun phrase. The most important of all these, and that's why we are going to study it first, is the noun phrase, right? Because noun phrases are crucial for language. They are as crucial for sentences as the noun is crucial to language itself. Because in Portuguese, we call the noun the... What do we call nouns in Portuguese? Substantivo, isn't it? Now, if we have this idea of substance, it's because the substantial part of language is in the noun, okay? The most meaningful part, let's say, the core part. I can't say anything just with nouns, okay? And sometimes with one or another adjective. Sometimes we can do without determiners, we can do without articles, but we can't do in language without nouns and verbs. And that's why in our hierarchy, the order will be first the noun phrase, and second element of study, the verb phrase. Do you have any questions? I have just, used too much time. Again, I'm sorry about that. Finishing the recording. If you have any questions, I'll be here. I'm the last one to leave. Okay.